that's an uncontrollable thing that I'm not able to control, and that's not, nothing I should speak on, just being the quarterback of this team, this franchise. They gave me an opportunity. I ain't do up to my expectations.
100% it doesn't seem right. And look, here's the thing, and is it the kid, or is it how you have treated this guy? Like, I don't know where the fine line is, but there's, certainly a disconnect.
Shedeur wasn't lying, because the way Stefanski acted afterward was wild. He didn't show even a drip of accountability, didn't offer real sympathy, and didn't even hint at the coaching choices that pushed Shedeur into that brutal situation on the field. Instead, he brushed everything off with that dry, we'll assess the situation in training, giving zero reflection, zero responsibility, and zero recognition of what Shedeur just battled through out there. Instead of owning his role in the team's shaky prep or standing strong behind his young quarterback, Stefanski downplayed everything and slid the spotlight off himself, making it loud and clear that real support wasn't coming from the head coach that day. It came off cold, distant, and honestly kind of strange for someone who's supposed to lead the squad. And after those comments from Stefanski and Shedeur hit the public, the NFL world instantly rallied behind Shedeur's side. Fans, analysts, former players, everybody started calling Stefanski out, saying he basically set Shedeur up to struggle from the jump. The loudest accusation? That Stefanski didn't even give Shedeur a single first-team rep before tossing him into a fight with the Ravens defense, one of the toughest units in the league. Rex Ryan came in swinging and absolutely let loose on Stefanski, calling the whole move reckless and flat-out unfair. He didn't sugarcoat a thing, saying it makes no sense to throw a young quarterback into that kind of chaos with zero real preparation. Rex even suggested the situation feels off, saying the Browns' treatment of Shedeur looked so strange that it makes people wonder if something deeper might be happening behind the scenes. Rex Ryan didn't hold back at all. He straight up questioned the Browns' whole motive, asking why they even traded for Shedeur Sanders if they never planned on giving him a real shot on the field. He basically said the move makes no sense unless the team had something else in mind, because the way they're treating him now definitely doesn't match the hype of bringing in a new quarterback. According to Rex, something in Cleveland feels off, and he wasn't tossing around random drama just to stir things up. He was pointing at what he believes is the obvious truth. The Browns and Kevin Stefanski don't seem to rock with Shedeur's star power, and they're clearly not tapping into the huge fan base he brings. In Rex Ryan's eyes, the way they've handled Shedeur so far makes it look like they're setting him up to struggle instead of giving him a real chance to shine and succeed. Then McCoy stepped in and added even more heat. He called out Stefanski with just as much intensity, blasting the choice to give Shedeur 0 first-team reps before the game. McCoy didn't hold anything back either. He questioned Stefanski's intentions and flat-out called him a bad coach for managing the situation like this. McCoy argued that Stefanski acted as if Dillon Gabriel was untouchable, like there was no possible scenario where he could get hurt, leaving Shedeur unprepared and thrown into chaos without support. And because of that mindset, only Dillon was seen as worthy of those reps, at least according to LeSean. He said that way of thinking is completely off, and it proves why Shedeur Sanders never had a fair chance from the very beginning. It shows the mindset in the building was already tilted before Shedeur ever stepped onto the field. Then Ocho jumped in and added even more pressure on Stefanski. He openly questioned what the coach was even thinking, pointing out that Shedeur Sanders didn't get a single first-team rep before the game, not one. That means Stefanski had no real grasp of Shedeur's strengths, weaknesses, rhythm, or style, yet still tossed him straight into live action like everything would magically work out. Ocho made it clear that the lack of preparation showed instantly. With no reps, no timing, and no familiarity with the starting crew, Shedeur had zero chemistry with anyone out there, and that wasn't his fault at all. That entire mess fell back on the coaching staff because they're the ones responsible for getting a quarterback ready to roll under pressure. And that's when things got even louder, because people started pointing out something that made the whole situation look even stranger. Reporters noticed that during practice week, Stefanski barely spoke with Shedeur at all, almost like he wasn't part of the plan. Fans started saying, how you expect him to be ready when you ain't even talking to him? And honestly, that question shook the whole conversation. Former players began chiming in, saying the vibe looked off from the jump.
And at no point in time had he taken one snap with the ones. It's very, very difficult.
They said any coach who truly believes in a young quarterback makes sure he gets at least some attention, some direction, some kind of structure, not silence. Folks online were posting clips comparing how Stefanski treated other quarterbacks versus how he treated Shedeur, and the difference was so obvious that people were stunned. Then another layer hit when insiders claimed the staff didn't even adjust the playbook for Shedeur's style. They said the calls he ran weren't built for his strengths at all, which made it look like he was being asked to run someone else's playbook on the fly. That had analysts saying things like, no wonder he struggled. They didn't gear a single thing toward what he does best. All these details made it impossible to ignore the bigger picture. Shadeur wasn't set up to succeed, and people were starting to call the whole situation suspicious. And just when everyone thought the drama couldn't get any heavier, a new storyline popped up that had the whole NFL world buzzing. A few insiders suggested there might have been tension inside the locker room way before Shadeur ever touched the field, hinting that some players didn't know where he stood in the rotation. That rumor alone had fans saying, how you expect the squad to click when nobody knows the plan? Reporters started digging, and suddenly clips surfaced showing starters warming up without even glancing at Shadeur, almost like he wasn't part of the unit. Viewers online pointed it out instantly, saying the body language looked cold, distant, and straight up confusing for anyone trying to figure out how the team viewed their new quarterback. It sparked a ton of questions about whether Shadeur was really embraced from day one or just tossed into the mix with no backing. Analysts jumped in too, explaining that when a quarterback doesn't get genuine support from the locker room, it shows on the field fast. They said timing, trust, and communication all fall apart when the vibe behind the scenes isn't solid, and that's exactly what people were claiming they saw with Shadeur. A talented quarterback trying to survive while looking disconnected from everyone around him. All of this made the situation look even more chaotic, pushing fans to wonder if something deeper was happening inside that building. And then things took a sharper turn because former coaches began speaking up and saying the whole situation reminded them of times when a team quietly chose their favorite quarterback long before camp even started. One former coordinator said, when a staff decides who they want, everybody else gets pushed to the side. And people instantly connected that to how Shadeur was being handled. Fans started replaying moments from the preseason, noticing how every little thing Shadeur did was overlooked, while every small moment from Dylan was hyped up like it was the next big breakthrough. Folks online said it felt like Shadeur was being judged before he even got a chance to show what he could really do. That idea had the whole conversation spinning because it made everything look intentional instead of accidental. Then commentators broke down the film and showed how the plays Shadeur got were some of the toughest calls a quarterback could face, with no warm-up, no chemistry, and no real rhythm. They pointed out that those plays are normally reserved for someone who's been getting reps for weeks, not someone who got thrown in last minute. People watched those breakdowns and said the same thing. How was he even supposed to succeed with that?
Shedeur came in there and played.
Yeah, obviously all players, it's we'll look at it, but he's going to battle like he does. So I'm sure there's things that we can clean up, but those are things we'll look at tomorrow.
All of this started building a picture that was hard to ignore. A picture that made it look like Shadeur was stepping into a situation where the deck had been stacked against him from the start. Let's keep it real. Shedeur Sanders handled all of this with straight-up humility, even though the situation around him was stacked against him from every angle. He didn't blame anyone, he owned his performance like a professional, and that alone shocked a lot of people. The truth is, none of this falls on him. Even while getting hit again and again, he still fired off some clean, impressive throws that showed exactly why people believe in his talent. One of the clearest examples was that throw to Larvey in the red zone, a play that could have flipped the entire momentum for Cleveland. Shadeur dropped that ball in the perfect spot, right where it needed to be, and for a second, it looked like a highlight moment was about to unfold. But instead of a game-changing play, Larvey then lost the ball even after securing it, turning a potential spark into a gut-punch fumble. That mistake erased a crucial chance and stole a moment that could have turned Shadeur into the hero of the night. And it didn't happen just once. This pattern kept popping up the whole game. Shadeur kept placing the ball exactly where it belonged, but the receivers around him, many of them not even regular first-team guys, struggled to finish the plays over and over. They kept losing the ball, dropping passes, and coughing up fumbles that killed drives and wiped out momentum every time it started to build. At points, it almost looked like Stefanski had no intention of letting Shadeur step in, take command, and push the Browns toward a win. There were multiple moments where Shadeur delivered laser-accurate passes right into his receivers' hands, only for them to drop it or lose control. One throw really stood out. The receiver caught it clean, had full control, and still let it slip away, turning what should have been a confident completion into another crushing mistake. That moment won't show up on any stat sheet, but it changed the whole flow of the game and exposed what was really going on out there. And when the final whistle hit, the most unexpected and powerful moment of the night came from Myles Garrett. He stepped up to the mic, and instead of talking about plays and schemes, he used his spotlight for something way bigger. He stood solid behind his quarterback with zero hesitation. Garrett didn't stutter or ease into it. He jumped straight into defending Shedeur Sanders, refusing to let the blame land on him for a second. He said loud and clear that any criticism thrown at Shadeur was completely unfair. His words weren't just supportive, they carried weight, showing real unity and loyalty from one of the team's strongest leaders. And Garrett kept going. He made sure everyone understood how hard Shadeur has been grinding behind the scenes. He explained that Shadeur does everything the team asks from him, and even pushes past that. Miles pointed out the extra time Shadeur spends staying locked in, staying prepared, staying connected, and staying ready even when he's not given the chances he deserves. With all that work in mind, Garrett shut down every attempt to put the team's problems on Shadeur. He made it crystal clear that Shadeur is putting in the effort, he's staying committed, and he's handling his responsibilities like a real pro. Garrett wanted everyone to know that Shadeur is doing his part, and that's all anyone can ask from a true professional trying to earn his shot. And once Myles Garrett spoke up, the whole conversation around Shadeur shifted even more. Reporters started replaying his statement across every sports show, and fans began realizing just how serious the situation must be if a leader like Garrett felt the need to step in that strongly.
Give the boy no first team reps. Now I've been on a team where they give a lot of the first team reps to the the superstar players and all that and the ones. But here and there the backups would get a rep or two, right? Because if anything can happen in the game. I guess it's good coaches and bad coaches. Andy Reid won't do that.
People online were saying if Myles is defending him like that, something deeper had to be going on. And that reaction spread fast. Then other players started dropping little hints of their own. Nothing wild, just small comments like, he's been locked in all week, or he's earned his respect in this locker room. And those small remarks added fuel to a growing belief that the support for Shadeur inside the building was way stronger than what the coaching decisions showed. It made the whole vibe feel even more complicated, like there was a split between the players' trust and the staff's choices. Analysts began jumping on this angle too, pointing out that when star veterans speak up unprovoked, it usually means they've seen something the public doesn't. They said it's rare for a top defender to defend a young quarterback with that much passion unless he truly believes the blame is misplaced. That alone had fans rethinking everything they thought they knew about the situation. And with all these voices coming out, the spotlight on Stefanski got even brighter. People started questioning not just his game plan, but his communication, his preparation, and whether he was really giving Shadeur the environment he needed to succeed. It created a storm of conversation that made it impossible to ignore what was happening inside that locker room. And right when the pressure on Stefanski started hitting its peak, the media hit him with a wave of questions he couldn't dodge. Reporters asked straight up why Shadeur wasn't given real reps, why the offense wasn't adjusted for him, and why the players seemed more supportive than the staff. Stefanski tried to keep his answers short, but the energy in the room made it clear. People weren't buying the usual lines anymore. Fans watching the press conference online were calling it out instantly. They said his body language looked tense, his tone sounded guarded, and every time Shadeur's name came up, he shifted the conversation somewhere else. Viewers kept posting clips saying things like, why can't he just answer the question? Because it felt like he was dancing around the truth instead of facing it head on. Then analysts started breaking down the conference in real time, pointing out how rare it is for a coach to dodge questions this heavily after a loss where the backup quarterback took the heat. They explained that most coaches protect their guys, especially young ones thrown into tough situations. So seeing Stefanski stay distant only added more tension to a situation that was already messy. By the end of the night, people weren't just questioning the decisions anymore. They were questioning the relationship between the head coach and his quarterback. And once that doubt hits the public, it's almost impossible to pull back, especially when the whole league is watching every move. And just when things looked like they couldn't get any more intense, a new twist dropped that made the whole situation even harder to ignore. Former players who used to be in Cleveland started speaking out on social media, hinting that this wasn't the first time a quarterback felt overlooked by the staff. They didn't name names, but they kept posting comments like, "This is familiar," and "Some things never change," and fans immediately connected those dots. Sports shows began pulling old clips where past quarterbacks talked about feeling unprepared or left out of certain game plans, and viewers started noticing the pattern instantly. People began saying, "Hold up, this has been going on for years." And suddenly the conversation around Shadeur wasn't just about one game, it was about a bigger issue inside the organization.
Whether he's doing good or bad, he's doing what he's supposed to. And no, he doesn't complain, he doesn't bitch and moan about it. He just goes out there and does his job, and then he goes on and gets extra work.
Insiders added even more smoke to the fire by explaining that when the same complaints show up year after year, it usually means the communication system isn't working the way it should. They said quarterbacks need a coach who's locked in with them, someone who builds trust before they ever step onto the field, and that clearly wasn't happening here. That idea got fans heated because it made Shadeur's situation look like the latest chapter in a long-running story. And with everybody digging into Cleveland's past, the pressure on Stefanski grew even heavier. People started asking whether the team needed a shift in leadership if young quarterbacks kept ending up in the same confusing spot. It turned Shedur's situation from a one-week controversy into a full-on conversation about the team's future. Shedeur Sanders' recent comments sent shockwaves through the entire NFL, shaking up the conversation in a way nobody saw coming. What started as a simple remark about not getting first-team reps suddenly exploded into a much bigger story, one that exposed major tension inside the Cleveland Browns organization. By pointing out that those reps were completely out of his control, Shedeur didn't just mention a coaching choice, he revealed a deeper problem with how the team's leadership is handling their young quarterback. Analysts, former players, and fans across the league started putting Stefanski's decisions under a microscope, and the reaction was loud and clear. The consensus was impossible to ignore. Shedeur wasn't given a fair setup at all. From being tossed into a high-pressure game with no real preparation to watching his clean passes get mishandled by receivers who weren't regular first-team guys. The whole situation made it obvious the staff didn't prioritize giving him a real shot to show what he could do. And the fallout hit instantly. Rex Ryan came out swinging, calling out Stefanski for a decision that made no sense, and questioning why the team even traded for Shedeur if they never planned on letting him play. He wasn't alone either. McCoy and Ocho echoed the same frustration, pointing out how unprepared Shedeur was and calling out the coaching staff for failing to support him at every level. Across the NFL, the story kept growing, with more people stepping up and saying the same thing. Shedeur didn't fail. He was put in a situation where success wasn't even on the table. Pundits and fans all over the league have rallied behind Shedeur because anyone watching the game could see the blame doesn't fall on him. Every clean throw, every attempt to fight through the chaos, every moment he tried to keep the offense alive showed he's ready, willing, and fully capable of being that guy. But the team around him made it tough to shine, especially with all the confusion and pressure swirling around him on the field. Leaders like Garrett stepped up big time to protect and support their young quarterback, and his words about Shedeur were powerful. Garrett made it clear that Shedeur's hustle, preparation, and professionalism haven't gone unnoticed. And when someone like Garrett speaks with that much confidence and respect, it shows the locker room leadership is standing strong for him, even if Stefanski seems like he's not fully in his corner. Shedeur Sanders' comments didn't just shake the NFL. They exposed a truth that people can't ignore anymore. Maybe Stefanski didn't mean to hold him back, or maybe he did, but with leaders like Garrett backing him up, Shedeur has allies determined to make sure he gets a real shot to prove himself and show the league what he can truly do when the stage is his. And now it's your turn. We want to hear what you think about all this. Do you believe Stefanski actually set Shedeur Sanders up to fail? Or was this just a chain of messy decisions that spiraled out of control? How much responsibility should fall on the coaching staff versus the players on the field? And what about leaders like Garrett? Can their support flip Shedeur's whole path in Cleveland and change his future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, share this with someone who's been following the drama, and let your voice be heard. This situation has the entire NFL buzzing, and your take might spark the next big conversation about quarterback development and real accountability. See you on the next one.